Hello and welcome to Agrestal Vestige, where we are vested in all things Agrestal. My name is Tom. I'm here with you yet again this week for another blended Scotch whiskey review. What do we have this week? We have Imperial. Now Imperial has an age statement of 12 years. You don't often get that in blends. You get it in a few, not many. But a age-stated blended Scotch whiskey is something that I said, well, I definitely need to try this. And so I did. I've had a wee bit of it so far, and I thought I would share it with you. So, Imperial, a little bit more of that, is blended at 40% alcohol by volume. Let's see, there's not a lot of information on the label. It's a Sazerac product, for those of you who are familiar with that. It's imported and bottled by Sazerac. That's in Kentucky, actually, of all places, which is odd. Most Scotch it's all bottled. I mean, it's all distilled in Scotland, and most of it's bottled. Apparently, that's Kentucky. Anyway, you would think a age stated of 12 years Scotch whiskey, Imperial, don't know why they spelled it with an I, but okay. You'd think that it would be something worth having, so let's see if it is. So on the nose. Well, the main thing, the primary thing I get on the nose, it is somewhat grain rich. And the grain doesn't seem like a corn, it seems like a wheat. I'm just surmising here and supposing, theorizing that the grain whiskey part of this blend is from wheat. It is somewhat floral, slightly floral, but you don't get a lot of malt notes. You don't get a lot of just different, you don't get fruity notes, you don't get umami, you don't get wood notes. You don't get the sweet and sour, you don't get, yeah. It's very, very simple on the nose. But as you know, Scotch whiskey fans, that sometimes something simple on the nose has nothing to do with the taste, with the palate. So what do we have on the palate? Is big. A lot of whiskeys are peated. This is not a big peat. This is a big heat. It's very hot. It's very, very grain rich. It's very grain forward. That's the first thing that hits you. Let me see if I can get behind that and see what else may be there. Oh. Actually, for those of you who have had or who enjoy chewing gum, juicy fruit, chewing gum. It has it tastes the same as juicy fruit chewing gum. Also, it tastes like a grape Fanta or a grape Kool-Aid. For those of you who are familiar with that, yeah, they're very grain rich, like a grape Fanta, grape Kool-Aid, juicy, fruity type, chewing gummy thing with an underlying aspect to it of rubbing alcohol, because that's there. So it's apparently the grain-rich ethanol. I mean, it's you get that taste of isopropyl alcohol. How it smells, you get that on the palate for the taste. And with the isopropyl alcohol mixed in with like a cheap women's perfume. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's balanced. And I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see that on the camera. But if you could see the beading, do you see all the beading that's present there? I hope you can. No tears, no legs whatsoever. That beading that you see, you only get that from very young grain whiskey. So it tasted very grain rich. And there's the proof right there. And it's very young. I mean, this is 3 years and a day, no more, for the grain whiskey part of this. I know the minimum age of a whiskey, if it's got an age statement, is 12 years. That any age statement has to be the youngest whiskey in the blend. It can be older whiskeys in there. It could be 30, 40, 50-year-old whiskeys, but the declarative age that's on the bottle has to be the youngest whiskey in there. I know I just said 3 years and a day, but obviously, because it's law, 12 years has to be the youngest whiskey in there. So this grain whiskey is a 12-year-old masquerading as a 3 year and a day year old, you know. Why is that? Well, that come from very poor conditionings during maturation. Poor quality casks. I have no idea. I can't tell what type of wood matured this whiskey. I have no idea. But I do know that it's probably a second, a third, and a fourth filled cask that's been used, reused, and reused again until it's leached every aspect, flavor aspect it can out of the wood to where there's absolutely nothing left. And that's what you have here. The finish is extremely short. It's almost not present. And the the aftertaste, the short finish that it does have is that of smelling wet paper bags. Like if you go into a concrete building and there's paper bags everywhere and it's been rained on, that smell is the finish on this. Now it's 40% ABV, so I am going to add water to see if it dramatically changes or adds to or takes away from anything. We're going to see Imperial. There's not a lot about this whiskey online. I would assume it's in making reference to the imperialness of the United Kingdom. Who knows? Who knows? Wow. You added the water and it's just, wow. Beating. Oh, I don't think you'd have to sit too long to notice something. Now, I'm not joking here when I say this. It's going to sound like I'm being very nasty toward this whiskey. I'm only telling you what I smell and taste. After adding the water, like I said, before the water, it was just grain rich and slightly floral. After adding the water, the initial time you put it to your nose, it smells like glass cleaner, like a Windexy type glass cleaner. And that's not all. Like if you peel grapefruit and you sniff the rind, the grapefruit rind, not the fruit itself, but it's like a grapefruit rind. So it's glass cleaner and grapefruit rind is what you get after adding the water. So, let's see on the palate. Got to do it. Right. I reviewed a lot of blended Scotch whiskies on this channel, and this is one of them. Okay, after adding the water on the palate, you get that. I told you about the grapefruit rind, but it's like a green citrus mixed with red licorice. Not the black licorice, but the red licorice specifically. And it's like the red licorice and the citrus were put into something like an old cough syrup. You know, those old-fashioned cough syrupy type flavors. There's the old-fashioned cough syrup flavor in here with the red licorice and like the green citrus. It's not even ripe. Again, the finish is short, abrupt. As far as balance, I'm not even going to talk about that. I mean, it doesn't even come close to being balanced. I mean, look at that orangey color. It's obviously heavily chill filtered. It's heavily colored because you get that very bitterness on the end. This is a good Scotch for someone who doesn't drink Scotch all the time or neat. If you wanted to consume this beverage, and even then it depends on what you're consuming it, how you're consuming it, but this is a mixer. This is definitely a mixer, and you know, on this channel, and you're, you know, whiskey geeks or whiskey snobs or whatever you want to call yourself, you're whiskey centric such as I, and you would never adulterate your whiskey by mixing it with anything except the addition of a little water to bring out the flavors. However, for people that want to consume whiskey in a very adulterative fashion, this is a whiskey they should have, because this whiskey is extremely cheap. This is $20 pounds, euros, wherever you're at. 20 pounds for this bottle. That's dirt cheap. That's a dirt cheap whiskey. There's loads and loads, and I have even had on this channel whiskeys cheaper than this that were far superior. Far superior. Do you remember the old Clan MacLeods that I reviewed? Excellent whiskeys, go to toe with malts any day. Cheaper than this. This is around the $20 pound mark, you know. And I truly don't say this much, but I mean, I would never say this. But the only way to enjoy this, well, not enjoy this whiskey, the only way to consume this whiskey is to get a tumbler, which I never recommend. Fill it full of ice, chuck the whiskey in there, and then find something. It doesn't matter what it is. French mustard, grapefruit juice. I've got orange juice. Chuck some orange juice in there. Chuck anything in there. Pickle juice. Tobacco. It doesn't matter. And give this to somebody who is a friend of yours maybe, but they say, yeah, I'm a whiskey guy. Yeah, I love whiskey. And they always want whiskey on the rocks, or whiskey or some other type rubbish concoction that they come up with. I can't even remember them because I don't use them. But if you give them that, they'll probably love it. They will love it. They will go, ooh, that's smooth. I'm not even going to sample that. No. For marks out of 100, and an honest mark out of 100 for this particular blended Scotch whiskey, Imperial, age stated 12 years. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to be very generous, and I'm going to rate this at a 39. 39 out of 100. I know there's malt whiskey in there. I don't taste it. I couldn't begin to tell you what malt is added to this. But it's a very poorly maturated grain whiskey in this. And probably malt as well. 39 out of 100. Imperial 12. Really nothing more to say. Until next time, like, subscribe. Hey, if you've tried this, leave comments about it. Love to hear them. Until next time, for Agrestal Vestige, this is Tom. Bye-bye.